Changeling is a 2017 fantasy horror novel by Victor LaValle. It was published by Spiegel and Grau on 13 June 2017. The novel was adapted into a TV series that premiered on Apple Plus on 8 September 2023. The premise of the book follows Apollo Kagwa and his wife Emma Valentine settling into their cozy life of parenthood. What seems like postpartum depression takes a sinister turn as the world turns into a dark and twisted fairy tale filled with mystery, myth, love, loss, and sadness. The good. I read this book after watching season 1 of The Changeling, which raised more questions than it gave answers. And post-reading the book, I now understand the series better and how it was surprisingly on the nose with the plot. The series had a more of show don't tell thing going on, which didn't adequately give the viewer enough to figure out what was happening. One of the main reasons I picked up the book was a profound curiosity to know what Emma's third wish was. I had my suspicions, but I wanted it spelled out. Well, I got my answer. At its core, it's a story about parenting. How parents usually try to be better at, parenting than their parents before them, and the extent a parent is willing to go through for their child. New dads fix all the mistakes the old dads made. New dads are the future, or it is the plan to be. But since they're making all this shit up as they go along, new dads are also scared as hell. The Changeling is a fairy tale about love. Apollo and Emma's love story, which starts from a chance encounter in a library. She's a librarian and him a rare book collector. That seems almost fated when you retrace their backstories to see how they ended up in the positions they are. Serendipity. Parenthood is a story two people start telling together. Having watched season 1 of the TV series adaptation, which ends at about roughly halfway through the book, I thought I knew what to expect. But the book had a way of weaving the story in unexpected ways that you could only but keep going to see where it would lead. The book is a modern-day fairy tale, which makes a couple of not-so-metaphorical references of how technology is a dark force that can invite evil into our lives. The bad. There is some vagueness to the storytelling that can leave you frustrated. You'll go through the book not entirely sure what's what. The reality is blurred, and you're not sure if characters are simply projecting from their childhood trauma and abandonment issues or postpartum depression, or there's more to it. And on the postpartum depression, as a partner, Apollo seems to handle that rather terribly. When Emma expresses some of her concerns, he tells her to simply take a pill. And when he thinks he's acting unhinged, he locks her outside. At some point, you actually resent his character and the way he is. Always 2 steps behind, reacting rather than being proactive. The ugly. The book takes us back to the origins of fairy tales when they weren't all sunshine and happy ever after stories meant for kids. Fairy tales were dark creations, deceptively sweet fantasies turning into nightmares. There is some implied violence in the book, central to the plot, but disturbing nonetheless. I'm not a parent, but I was still triggered. So I can imagine some parents would have a visceral reaction to violence on kids, implied or not. Final thoughts. The book is a bit of a change like itself. It's not exactly one thing. It's a fantasy, horror, mystery, thriller, romance folktale. On one side, it's a story about 2 parents facing challenges, reaching a boiling point to become a trip into the world of folktales and myths. Have you read The Challenging or watched the series?